Hey, friend. Welcome back to another episode of the English Pod community, where we don't just learn English, we live it. Now, let me ask you something a little strange. Have you ever dreamed in English? Like you're asleep, your mind is drifting, and suddenly you're speaking English. Maybe you're in a conversation. Maybe you're just hearing someone talk. But when you wake up, you realize, wait, that wasn't my native language. That was English, and it felt so real. If that's ever happened to you, or if it hasn't happened yet, then this episode is for you. Because today, I want to take you inside one of the most surprising, emotional, and powerful moments in my English learning journey. The night I dreamed in English for the first time, and more importantly, what it meant. See, when I first started learning English, I asked the same questions most learners ask. How long will it take to become fluent? Will I ever stop translating everything in my head? Can I really think in English? And people would say things like, oh, you'll know you're fluent when you start dreaming in English. That sounded like magic to me, or maybe like a myth. Because back then, my mind felt full of grammar rules, not natural language. I could understand English when I read it. I could answer written questions. But when it came to speaking naturally, confidently, without translating, it felt impossible. But then, one night changed something. No books, no pressure, just sleep, and something surprising. In this episode, I'll share exactly how that moment happened and what led to it. The simple night routine I followed that helped me get there. The science behind why your brain learns while you sleep, and how you can create the same environment to let English become part of your subconscious. This episode isn't about studying harder. It's not about perfection. It's about something deeper. It's about creating a life where English is more than just a subject. It's a language that lives in your dreams, in your thoughts, in your confidence. So get cozy. Maybe even lie down and relax. Because what you're about to hear might change how you think about fluency forever. Ready? Let's begin. I used to think I was doing everything right. I memorized vocabulary. I practiced grammar drills. I even watched English YouTube videos every day. But despite all that effort, whenever I had to speak or understand someone in real time, something strange happened. My brain froze. I remember one moment very clearly. I was standing in line at a coffee shop, rehearsing my sentence in my head. I would like a small cappuccino, please. It sounded fine when I repeated it to myself. But then, the cashier smiled and asked, for here or to go? And just like that, I panicked. I didn't understand the question. I froze, smiled awkwardly, and just nodded. I didn't even know what I agreed to. Why? Because I was still translating. Every single word. For here or to go? I tried to convert it into my native language in my head, then back into English. But by the time I figured out what it meant, the conversation had already moved on. I missed my chance. Again, that kept happening. In conversations, I couldn't keep up. I'd hear someone say something like, what are you up to? And I'd pause, mentally break it into words, look for the grammar I knew, try to translate it, then freeze because none of it made sense word by word. My sentences came out robotic, disconnected, slow, and that made me feel like maybe I just didn't have what it takes. I thought fluency meant speaking quickly, perfectly, like a native speaker, and I was nowhere near that. I thought, maybe I'll never get there. But the truth is, that phase where you feel stuck and slow, that's part of the journey. If you're in that phase right now, I get it. I was there. And it's not the end. It's the beginning of something bigger. Because once I understood why translating was holding me back, everything changed. And that journey, from translating word by word to thinking in English naturally, started with a dream, literally. And we'll get there. But first, let me share what made the biggest difference. I remember it so clearly. I was sitting in a small language cafe, sipping tea and listening to a guy talk about his experience learning Spanish. We were just a group of language learners sharing stories, frustrations, little wins. And then he said something that stopped me. He smiled and said, "You know, you're really starting to get fluent when you start dreaming in the language." Dreaming? In English? I laughed at first. I thought he was joking. I mean, dreaming in a foreign language? That sounded like something only geniuses or super advanced speakers did. Definitely not someone like me, who still had to repeat basic phrases 10 times just to remember them. But something about it stuck with me. That sentence, "You know you're really starting to get fluent when you dream in the language," it replayed in my head over and over for days. At first, I doubted it. How can I dream in English when I can't even speak it confidently while I'm awake? But the more I thought about it, the more I wanted it to be true. Because dreaming isn't forced. You don't control it. It comes from deep inside, your subconscious. So if your brain starts to dream in English, that must mean English has finally become a part of you, not just something you study, but something you live. And that idea, that one day I might dream in English, it lit a fire in me. It made me curious. It made me excited. Not to become perfect, but to become immersed. I started wondering, how does that even happen? What would it feel like? What kind of dream would I have? And that moment, that spark, became a quiet goal in my heart. One day I want to dream in English too. After hearing that dreaming in English was even possible, something shifted inside me. I started paying more attention to my nights, not just my days. I realized that maybe, just maybe, the time right before bed was more powerful than I thought. So I began a simple routine. No pressure, no big goals, just a small experiment. Every night, right before I went to sleep, I played something in English, but not a grammar lesson, not a vocabulary list. I chose something soft, calming, something that felt like a lullaby for my brain. Sometimes it was a podcast with slow, natural conversations. Other nights it was a sleep story. You know, those peaceful audio stories people listen to for relaxation. I'd lie in bed, close my eyes, and just listen. I didn't try to understand every word. I didn't pause or rewind. I let the English wash over me like background music. And honestly, it felt good. It felt peaceful. It felt natural. At first, I didn't notice anything major, but something strange started happening. During the day, I'd remember certain phrases I had heard the night before, even though I wasn't trying to memorize them. My responses in conversations felt smoother. My vocabulary, it just started appearing, like magic. But it wasn't magic. It was consistency. I learned something important during this process. Perfection doesn't help you grow, but consistency does. I didn't understand everything. I wasn't always focused. But I was there every night. I showed up. That's when my brain slowly started changing. I wasn't just studying English anymore. I was absorbing it, just like we do in our first language. Softly, naturally, subconsciously. That night practice, no matter how small, became my secret weapon. And little did I know, it would soon lead to a dream I'd never forget. At some point in my routine, something shifted, not in the language, but in my attitude toward it. I stopped treating English like a test. No more notebooks, no dictionary at my side, no rewinding audio to catch every word. I'd just lie in bed, press play on a podcast or a calm video, close my eyes, and listen. I wasn't trying to memorize anything. I wasn't stressing about grammar or pronunciation. I just let the English flow, like soft background music. Sometimes I'd focus on the rhythm of the speaker's voice. Sometimes I'd drift off in the middle. And you know what? That was okay. Something beautiful happened during those quiet moments. English started to feel different, less like a subject in school, and more like a friend. It wasn't something I had to fight or fear anymore. It became warm, familiar, even comforting. There was a night I remember so clearly. I was listening to a sleep story in English, and the speaker said something so gently. Let go of your day and rest. I'd heard that phrase before, in other languages, but hearing it in English, in that peaceful moment, something clicked emotionally. I felt calm, safe, like English was now a part of my world, not something outside of me. And that's when I realized, you don't need to understand every word. You just need to let the language live around you. Because when there's no pressure, no perfection, no panic, your brain can finally open the door. That's where the real magic begins. It was just an ordinary night. I hadn't done anything special before going to bed. No long study session, no intense English movie, just a slow evening with a podcast playing softly in the background. I drifted off like usual, but what happened next changed the way I saw my language journey forever. I was in a cafe, somewhere I'd never been before. The place felt real, warm lighting, the sound of cups clinking, soft chatter. But the wild part? Everyone was speaking English, and so was I. I remember looking at the barista and casually saying, "Can I get a coffee with oat milk, please?" Just like that. No translating, no pause. It flowed naturally. Then someone sat down next to me, and we started chatting about the weather, life, music, all in English. The words weren't perfect, but they were mine. They came easily. And then I woke up. For a few seconds, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, stunned. My heart was racing, not from fear, but from excitement. I whispered to myself, did that just happen? Did I actually dream in English? It felt like a milestone I didn't even plan to reach. A subconscious sign that all the listening, all the journaling, all the little habits had quietly done their work. It wasn't something I forced. It was something my brain had accepted. That dream became a turning point, proof that I was changing from the inside out. Not just learning English, but living it even in my sleep. When I woke up from that first English dream, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, heart beating fast. Not because I was scared, but because I was shocked. Something had shifted. In the dream, I had spoken fluently, naturally. I didn't pause. I didn't translate. I didn't worry about grammar. I just spoke. And I understood everything. It wasn't a perfect dream. It was random, like most dreams. I was talking to someone at a cafe, asking questions, laughing, even making a joke. But it was all in English. And I didn't even notice until I woke up. And that realization hit me hard. My brain had finally started to feel safe in English. It wasn't a test. It wasn't pressure. It wasn't memorized vocabulary. It was me, just being myself, but in another language. That's when I understood something important. Fluency isn't just about how many words you know or how perfectly you use them. It's about comfort. It's about trust. When your brain stops fighting the language and starts flowing with it, you stop feeling like a student and start feeling like a speaker. That dream told me I was no longer studying English. I was living it. It had become a part of my identity. And to be honest, that changed everything. It gave me confidence in real life, too. I spoke more freely. I cared less about making mistakes. Because if I could dream in English, I could think in English. And if I could think in English, I could live in English. That's what it meant to me. Not perfection, not passing an exam, but becoming someone who breathes English, even in their sleep. Let's take a moment to understand why dreaming in English is such a big deal, not just emotionally, but scientifically. When we sleep, especially during deep REM sleep, that's the phase where most vivid dreams happen. Our brain is busy doing something powerful. It's processing, sorting, and storing everything we learned that day. Scientists call this memory consolidation. It's like your brain is saving files from the day into long-term memory. Now, if you spent your day listening to English, speaking, reading, writing, or even just watching a show in English, your brain remembers that. It says, this must be important. So during sleep, it starts replaying and organizing that information. And sometimes that process shows up in your dreams. In other words, dreaming in English is your brain's way of saying, I'm getting used to this. I'm absorbing this language. It belongs here. It's also a sign that your brain no longer sees English as something foreign. It's not locked in a textbook anymore. It's part of your subconscious world, part of your inner voice. And here's the cool part. The more positive emotion you attach to the language, curiosity, excitement, fun, the more your brain wants to keep it. This is why I always recommend listening to things you actually enjoy. A good story, an inspiring podcast, even a funny YouTube video. Your brain remembers joy, and that joy turns into dreams. So when you have your first English dream, or your second, or your 10th, smile. That's your brain saying, hey, we're becoming fluent, even while you sleep. Here's something most people don't realize. You don't always have to be actively studying to improve your English. In fact, some of my best progress happened when I was just listening. Not writing, not repeating, not translating. Just hearing English in the background, especially during moments of rest. I discovered this almost by accident. I started playing calm English podcasts at night. Not loud, not dramatic, just soft voices talking about relaxing topics, bedtime stories, travel diaries, short guided meditations. I wasn't trying to memorize anything. I wasn't even fully awake. But slowly, those sounds became familiar. Phrases stuck. Expressions felt natural. My brain was soaking it in, even while I slept. This is what we call passive learning. It's not about pressure. It's about exposure. Gentle, steady exposure. My personal sleep playlist included slow-spoken podcasts like Sleepy English, some relaxing YouTube channels where the speaker talks softly in English, and even old children's audiobooks with clear pronunciation. It was peaceful. It helped me sleep better and helped my English. The key is this. Don't underestimate the power of background English. You don't always need a notebook. Sometimes your ears just need to listen, and your brain, trust me, will do the rest. One of the most surprising things about dreaming in English was that specific words and phrases started showing up. Not randomly, but ones I had heard again and again during the day. Words like absolutely, I don't know, or are you serious? Popped up in my dreams exactly the way a native speaker would say them. And the strange part? I wasn't thinking about those phrases. They just came out of my mouth, like they were already a part of me. I remember one dream where I was in a small bookstore, and someone asked me, can I help you find something? I answered, oh, I'm just looking, thanks. That exact line, I'm just looking, was something I'd heard on a podcast a few nights earlier. I didn't even know I'd remembered it. But it was there, in my dream, in the right situation, with the right emotion. And that's when I understood something really powerful. We remember what we hear with feeling. It's not just about listening 100 times. It's about connecting with what you hear. And when I felt calm, curious, or even a little nervous, those emotions made the English stick. So here's what I want you to take away. The phrases that show up in your dreams aren't random. They're reflections of what you're feeding your brain. Repetition matters. Yes. But emotional connection is the glue. If you hear something funny, touching, or inspiring, you'll remember it longer. You might even dream about it. So next time you hear a phrase that makes you feel something, repeat it, whisper it, smile with it. Because what you hear with feeling, you remember. After that first dream in English, something inside me shifted. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was subtle, but powerful. I remember waking up that morning feeling different. Like English wasn't just a subject I was learning anymore. It was becoming a part of who I was. And that feeling gave me a new kind of confidence. I didn't need a dictionary to double-check every word. I didn't overthink every sentence. I just spoke. More naturally. More freely. It felt like English finally belonged to me. Before, I was always hesitant. I'd stop mid-sentence, second-guess my grammar, wonder if I sounded silly. But now, I felt lighter, more spontaneous. My thoughts flowed faster, and my tone was more relaxed. Like I wasn't performing English. I was just being myself, in another language. And you know what's funny? It wasn't because I suddenly mastered grammar rules or memorized more vocabulary. It was because I trusted myself more. My brain had been practicing behind the scenes, while I listened, while I whispered, while I slept. Dreaming in English was proof. My mind had accepted the language, and because of that, I stopped chasing perfection and started enjoying the process. If you've ever felt like English is something outside of you, like a costume you have to wear, let me tell you this. The moment your thoughts, your dreams, your feelings start flowing in English, even a little, it becomes yours. And that's where true confidence begins. Let's talk about what I call my dream-friendly English night routine. It's simple, calming, and surprisingly powerful. I created this routine after realizing that the way I ended my day had a huge impact on how my brain processed English overnight. If you're serious about speaking and thinking more naturally in English, even in your dreams, this is the part you'll want to try for yourself. Step 1. Light reading. About 30 minutes before bed, I pick up something easy and enjoyable to read in English. It could be a short story, a blog post, or even a few pages from a self-help book. The key here is not to stress. I don't underline every new word or try to analyze grammar. I just read for the feeling, like I'm enjoying a bedtime story. It sets the tone. My brain starts winding down, and I'm already shifting into English mode gently. Step 2. Journaling 2 to 3 sentences. After reading, I open my notebook and write just a few sentences about my day. I don't aim for perfection. I write things like, "Today I felt tired, but proud." I recorded a voice message in English and didn't translate. These simple reflections help lock in what I've learned and let my thoughts start flowing naturally. Plus, it trains my brain to express feelings and ideas in English, something that will absolutely show up in your dreams later. Step 3. 10 minutes of calm English audio. This is my favorite part. I lie down, close my eyes, and play soft English content. Sometimes it's a slow-spoken podcast. Sometimes it's a story with relaxing background music. The goal is to let the rhythm of English sink into my subconscious as I fall asleep. I'm not trying to study. I'm just letting the language float around in my mind, like a lullaby. When I follow this routine, I sleep better, I remember more, and most importantly, I dream in English more often. So if you're wondering how to naturally build English into your sleep schedule, start here. It doesn't have to be long or complicated, just 20 minutes at night. English in your eyes, English in your mind, and soon English in your dreams. Here's something you might find surprising. You can actually train your brain to dream in English. Sounds a little mystical, right? But it's not. It's about creating intention and gently guiding your subconscious. And trust me, it works better than you'd think. The first tip is visualization. Before going to bed, I close my eyes and picture myself in a real life English scenario. Maybe I'm traveling and ordering coffee at a cafe in New York, or I'm having a deep, friendly chat with someone at a bookstore in London. I see the setting. I imagine what I'd say, how I'd respond, how I'd feel. This primes my brain to rehearse those experiences, even while I sleep. It's like mental training, but it feels like dreaming with purpose. The second tip is simple but powerful. I tell myself, out loud or in my mind, I'm going to dream in English tonight. It might sound silly, but the brain listens to what we repeat. This becomes a form of suggestion, and suggestion can lead to subconscious action, especially if you're relaxed and emotionally connected to the language. And finally, I whisper a short phrase before I close my eyes. Something calm and easy, like, "That's interesting," or "It's going to be a good day." I say it slowly, almost like a lullaby. Not only does this reinforce vocabulary, but it also becomes the last English sound your brain hears before drifting into sleep. These aren't magic tricks. They're gentle, mindful habits that make English feel like part of who you are, not just what you study. So tonight, try this. Close your eyes, imagine a conversation in English, whisper a calming phrase, and let your dreams do the rest. Let me say this clearly. Dreaming in English isn't the goal. It's a sign, a beautiful, unexpected signal from your brain that says, hey, this language is starting to feel normal. But here's the truth. Even if you haven't had your first English dream yet, it doesn't mean you're not growing. You might be practicing every day. You might be understanding more, speaking faster, smiling during conversations. And that is progress. One of the biggest signs for me, even before I dreamed in English, was how I stopped pausing every 2 seconds to think. My mind started connecting words naturally. That's a shift. That's fluency blooming. Another sign? Joy. Real, honest joy in listening to something in English and actually understanding it. Not just the words, but the feeling. When English no longer feels like work, but like a part of your day, you're doing something right. So don't wait for dreams. They'll come when they're ready. In the meantime, celebrate the signs you can see. That moment when you catch yourself thinking in English, that time you answered without translating, the way your voice sounds more confident. You don't need a dream to prove it. Fluency is already happening right here every day. Keep going. So, let's take a deep breath together and think back on everything we've shared tonight. We talked about how dreaming in English isn't magic. It's momentum. It's what happens when you surround yourself with the language daily, gently, consistently. We explored how passive listening, emotional connection, sleep routines, and visualization all help your brain feel safe in English. And when your brain feels safe, it learns better, even while you sleep. But here's the real message. You don't have to wait for a dream to feel proud. Every sentence you whisper, every phrase you journal, every podcast you fall asleep to, that's all part of the journey. So here's your challenge. Try one full night of English immersion tonight. Play a calm audio. Write a short reflection in English. Whisper one positive phrase to yourself before closing your eyes. And if you ever wake up and realize, I just had a dream in English, I want to hear about it. Subscribe. Share your story in the comments or journal it for yourself. And let's keep growing together. Not just in the classroom, but in every quiet, beautiful corner of life, even your dreams.